1947, President Truman signs the National Security Act of 1947, creating the National Security Council and Central Intelligence Agency. In 1948, led by Wall Street lawyer Frank Wisner, the CIA creates a covert action wing called the Office of Policy Coordination. Its responsibilities include propaganda, economic warfare, preventative direct action, including sabotage, anti-sabotage, demolition, and evacuation procedures. In 1949, the CIA creates its first major propaganda outlet, Radio Free Europe. Over the next several decades, its broadcasts are so blatantly false that for a time it is considered illegal to publish transcripts of them in the U.S. Also around the same time, Operation Mockingbird, headed by Frank Wisner, Allen Dulles, Richard Helms, and Philip Graham, publisher of the Washington Post, begins. By the CIA's own admission, at least 25 organizations and 400 journalists become CIA assets. The CIA media assets include ABC, NBC, CBS, Time, Newsweek, Associated Press, United Press Internationals, Reuters, Hearst Newspaper, Scripps and Howard, Copley News Service, and more. In 1953, in Iran, the CIA overthrows the democratically elected Mohammad Mossadegh in a military coup after he threatens to nationalize British oil. The CIA replaces him with a dictator, the Shah of Iran, whose secret police, SAVAK, is as brutal as the Gestapo. Also that same year, inspired by North Korea's brainwashing program, the CIA begins experiments on mind control in Operation MKUltra, as well as Operation Artichoke. Part of this project involves giving LSD and other drugs to American subjects without their knowledge or against their will, causing several to commit suicide. Funded in part by the Rockefeller and Ford Foundation, research includes propaganda, brainwashing, public relations, advertising, hypnosis, and other forms of suggestion. 1954 in Guatemala, CIA overthrows democratically elected Jacob Arbenez in a military coup. Arbenez has threatened to nationalize the Rockefeller-owned United Fruit Company, in which CIA Director Allen Dulles also owns stock. Arbenez is replaced with a series of right-wing dictators whose bloodthirsty policies will kill over 100,000 Guatemalans in the next 40 years. In 1954 to 1958, CIA officer Edward Lansdale spends 4 years trying to overthrow the communist government of North Vietnam. The CIA also attempts to legitimize the tyrannical puppet regime in South Vietnam. The CIA's continuing failure results in the escalating American intervention accumulating in the Vietnam War. In 1961, the CIA sends 1,500 Cuban exiles to invade Castro's Cuba. But Operation Mongoose, aka the Bay of Pigs invasion, fails due to poor planning, security, and backing. The invasion was supposed to spark a popular uprising against Castro, which never happens, nor did a promised American airstrike, which leads to President Kennedy firing CIA Director Allen Dulles. Also that same year, in the Dominican Republic, the CIA assassinates Rafael Trujillo, a murderous dictator Washington has supported since 1930. Trujillo's business interests have grown so large that they have begun competing with American business interests. Also in 1961 in the Congo, the CIA assassinates the democratically elected Patrice Lumumba. In 1963 in the Dominican Republic, 2 years after the CIA's assassination of Rafael Trujillo, the CIA overthrows the democratically elected Juan Bosch in a military coup. 1964 in Brazil, the CIA-backed military coup overthrows the democratically elected government. General Castillo Branco will take over and create Latin America's first death squads, or bands of secret police who hunt down communists for torture, interrogation, and murder. Later it is revealed that the CIA trains the death squads. In 1965 in Indonesia, the CIA overthrows the democratically elected Sukarno with a military coup. The CIA has been trying to eliminate him since 1957, using everything from attempted assassination to sexual intrigue, for nothing more than declaring neutrality in the Cold War. His successor, General Suharto, will massacre between 500,000 to 1 million civilians accused of being communists. The CIA supplies the names and countless suspects. That same year in the Dominican Republic, a popular rebellion breaks out, promising to reinstall Juan Bosch as the country's elected leader. The revolution is crushed when the U.S. Marines land to uphold the military regime by force. The CIA directs everything from behind the scenes. 1967, Operation Phoenix begins. The CIA helps South Vietnamese agents identify and then murder alleged Viet Cong leaders operating in South Vietnamese villages. According to a 1971 congressional report, the operation killed about 20,000 Viet Cong. The CIA has been illegally spying on American citizens since 1959, but in 1968 with Operation Chaos, President Johnson dramatically boosted the efforts. CIA agents go undercover as student radicals to spy on and disrupt campus organizations protesting the Vietnam War. Chaos will eventually spy on 7,000 individuals and 1,000 organizations. In 1974, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh publishes a story about Operation Chaos. The story sparks national outrage. In 1972, President Nixon sends in a team of burglars to wiretap Democratic offices at Watergate. The team members have extensive CIA histories, including James McCord, E. Howard Hunt, and 5 of the Cuban burglars. In 1973, the CIA's main collaborating newspaper in America, the Washington Post, reports Nixon's crimes long before any other newspapers take up the story. The 2 reporters, Woodward and Bernstein, make almost no mention of the CIA's many fingerprints all over the scandal. Also that same year, President Nixon fired CIA Director Richard Helms for failing to help cover up the Watergate scandal. The new CIA director is William Colby. In 1974, Congress holds hearings on the illegal domestic spying efforts of James Angleton, the CIA's chief of counterintelligence. He is fired. In 1975, the Church Committee investigates CIA wrongdoing. In an attempt to reduce the damage done by the Church Committee, President Ford creates the Rockefeller Commission to whitewash CIA history. Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, for whom the commission is named after, is himself a major CIA figure. Operation Cyclone was the code name for the United States Central Intelligence Agency's program to arm, train, and finance the Afghan Mujahideen during the Soviet War in Afghanistan from 1979 to 1989. Operation Cyclone was one of the longest and most expensive covert CIA operations ever undertaken. Funding began with $20 to $30 million per year in 1980 and rose to $630 million per year in 1987.
Mosques back again. Because your cause is right and God is on your side.
As for the insurgents and their leaders like Osama bin Laden, they became what we know today as Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. In 1981, the CIA began selling arms to Iran at high prices, using the profit to arm the Contras fighting the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. This will be later called the Iran-Contra scandal. While the CIA is arming Iran, they are also arming Iraq, who is at war with Iran from 1980 to 1988. In 1984, the last of a series of Bolin amendments is passed. These amendments have reduced CIA aid to the Contras. The last one cuts it off completely. However, CIA Director William Casey is already prepared to hand off the operation to Colonel Oliver North, who illegally continues supplying the Contras through the CIA's informal, secret, and self-financing network. In 1986, although the details have long been known, the Iran-Contra scandal finally captures the media attention. Congress holds hearings, and several key figures, like Oliver North, lie under oath to protect the intelligence community. CIA Director William Casey dies of brain cancer before Congress can question him. In 1989, the U.S. invades Panama to overthrow a dictator of its own making, General Manuel Noriega. Noriega has been on the CIA's payroll since 1966 and has been transporting drugs with the CIA's knowledge since 1972. By the late 80s, Noriega's growing independence had angered Washington.